All right, welcome to the second day of. Sorry about that. Welcome to the second day of social psych. So this is going to be on research methods. This is chapter two. Um, research methods is going to be very important for us because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about several issues that are related to ethics, and then also talk about some kind of statistical issues. And the reason that we do this is because what we have to understand is that social psychology is a science, as I argued in the last lecture. And part of science is, once again, we follow the scientific method. So what we have a theory that guides our hypotheses, and those hypotheses lead to testable predictions, as in the data collection process. And that's where statistics and research design are really going to shine. And once we collect our data, we use the numbers themselves to confirm or disconfirm our hypotheses. All right, so as a science, research methods and statistics are going to be very important. I love talking about it. I teach the Psych 205 course here at Gettysburg College. That's the Psych Statistics course. And, students are often very, what's a good word to put this? Students are often very hesitant about learning about numbers and stuff like that, but they're actually not that difficult once you spend the time working on it. And the reason we're going to bring this up here is because not in your textbook, but in the research club articles that I'm going to have you read, you're going to see statistics. You're going to see means, standard deviations. You're going to see words like significantly higher or lower with a thing like a p-value. We'll talk about all that. So it's going to be important you understand this. But before we get to those, let's talk about the ethics that we need to worry about. Now, in terms of ethical considerations, social psychology and other sciences as well need to really pay attention to this, because we kind of have a history of unethical practices in terms of some of our more well-known experiments done early on. Like, for example, you heard probably in Gen Psych about the Milgram study, where participants were under the belief that there was a Confederate next door with a heart condition. And what ended up happening was the Confederate would start getting things wrong on a test, and the participant would then have to shock the person and increase the shocks for every time they got the answer wrong, up to the point where the Confederate started yelling over this intercom, "Stop, stop, get me out of here, I have a heart condition." And if this participant kept going, then eventually they would just hear a big thud, and the Confederate would stop responding. And the participant in this case, they had to choose: do you keep going on or not? And it's one of those things where, we have to think about, is that ethical? And from a scientific point of view, that is a brilliant study. It tests a really good theory of obedience. We'll talk about that later in the course. And it was a beautifully designed experiment. The only problem is that it caused psychological harm to the participants, right? To use an extreme example, I don't think this study's ever been done, but what if we were interested in testing things like does cocaine influence attention? And we were to randomly assign some people to get 5 milligrams of cocaine, and another group gets 0 milligrams of cocaine, and a third group, let's say, gets 50 milligrams of cocaine. Well, that would be unethical, not only because cocaine is illegal, but in high doses, it could actually kill you. To use another extreme example, if we were looking at the variables that predict risky sex behavior, I can't ethically randomly assign some people in my lab to go to room A, where you have unrisky sex, room B, where you have risky sex, and room C, where you just get to sit. I mean, that is very unethical because of the potential harm it could cause the participants. And we're not talking not only about physical harm, which is very important, but we're also talking about things like psychological harm. So we have to care about these things. And once again, if ethics didn't exist, all right, then social psychology could test experimentally some very, very interesting real-world psychological issues. But the amount of harm it would cause would be catastrophic, in my opinion. So therefore, it's a good thing we have ethics. It does limit what we can and cannot study in the lab. However, for a good reason it does that, because we have to care about human rights and their well-being. So it's a good thing that we have these things. And that's why we have to care. So the overall goal, and this is what I was always taught when I was in graduate school, was the overall goal is that your participant, when they come into the lab, they should leave in the same or better psychological state from which they entered. Now, we can't control if a person walks into the lab sad or mad or happy or whatever, but hopefully the manipulations and the questions that you ask in your lab, hopefully that doesn't cause undue psychological harm. And if you think it might, then you have to take corrective measures before they leave the room, before they leave the lab room. All right? And that's the overall goal. Remember, the overall goal, once again, is they have to leave in the same or better psychological state from which they came. So let me show you an example of what we used to do in our lab. So in my lab, I have a, I have a lab looking at emotions. This is what we used to do back when I was in graduate school. And part of our manipulation in this lab was we used to randomly assign people to watch this scene. So this is the scene from The Champ. It's an old movie. It's out of 1979. And so most of you haven't seen this yet, which is why I'm going to show it. I can't make it big without stopping the recording, so we're going to have to watch it here. If you want to watch it on your own with the big screen, you clearly can. Just go to YouTube. It's there and it's free. The Champ. So it's a movie about a fighter, a boxer. And this boxer, i.e. the champ, he fights in a final fight, and he ends up winning the fight. However, in the fight itself, he ends up taking substantial blows to the head, and he actually ends up dying. And so this end scene, so this is the end of the movie, this end scene, this clip, is what we used to show participants, and that's his son right there. You can see him on the screen. His name is Ricky Schroeder, and what he's going to do is he just finds out that the champ, his dad, has died. Now he calls his dad the champ. All right, so that just to clear that up, and we're just going to watch it. So here we go. Whoa, weird things are happening. Sorry, let me try that again. Okay, let me try that one more time.
Where's my boy? He's right there. TJ, where are you?
Here I am. Yeah. The champ always comes through late.
That's right.
What is wrong, Jim? Jim, wake up! Wake up! Yeah, what? The way! Wake up! Jim, wake up, Jim. Don't sleep now. You gotta go home. Gotta go home, Jim. Oh, no. He's not gone. He's not. He's not.
All right, so that was the champ. And now I have actually had participants in my lab cry in my lab as a function of watching the champ. All right, and so what we did in this particular study is we were looking at, does personality influence something called affect repair? And affect repair is how quickly can someone be sad or mad or whatever negative emotion you want and become unsad or unmad or whatever. And what we did is we randomly assigned people to watch that show. Now, what I haven't done to you is I told you, what I haven't told you yet is that participants were also told, all participants were told, pretend you're that boy. Now, once again, I've had participants cry in my lab. I've had participants just like literally just sobbing in my lab. And the question is, what psychological state are we putting him in? Well, clearly it's not a good one, right? People are really sad now. And the overall goal, though, is before they leave this lab, we have to determine whether or not they, or we have to put them in a better state. So after participants did this, if we just let them leave, that is very unethical. Imagine this, worst case scenario, worst case, is if someone is clinically depressed because, let's say, they lost their father or their mother, someone really close to them had died. And we bring them into my lab, and it just so happens they're randomly assigned to watch this video. And while they're watching this video, all these memories and cues come back of their own loved one's death. And because they're clinically depressed, what happens if this is the straw that breaks the camel's back? And after the study, they decide to hurt themselves or try to kill themselves. All right? That's a problem, to say the least. That is a problem. And so what we have to do then is, after our manipulations are over, so after they watch this video in this particular study, then they had to fill out some questionnaires about how they feel, whatnot, and then we had them wait for a couple minutes. I think it was 5 minutes, if memory serves correctly. We had them wait about 5 minutes, and then they filled out how do you feel questionnaires again. And what ended up happening was, we found that neurotic people have a really hard time repairing their negative mood. So this made them sad, and then they just couldn't get unsad. But extroverted people were able to go from sad to unsad. So ethical considerations, are going to be very important here, because, we're not giving people cocaine or letting people watch a lot of violence or having people drink alcohol, or, we're not doing that. We're just making people sad. But you got to understand that making people sad is risky ethically, because what we have to do is we have to understand that people are not going to be in the same psychological state from which they entered if we just let them leave after watching this show. All right, now I'm going to start the second video recording in just a second. I'm going to show you how we repaired this. So just bear with me real quick while I get all that together.